Yes, in terms of the People's Republic, inspiring message. We too are inspired by China. When China was a prisoner, a semi-colonial and semi-feudal prisoner of Western imperialism, they used to say its size made it ungovernable by the Chinese. And it was inevitable that it would remain the sick man of Asia. At a time when any Western country felt confident to sail up the Yangtze and bombard the people of China in their cities. That was the story we were told. Incapable of governance, incapable of development. And yet, we know that between the time when China was liberated and now made that famous speech that our comrade referred to, and the time of Mao's death, the life expectancy of the Chinese people doubled. The size of the population of China likewise doubled. This is the real and tangible difference that socialism in practice has made to the lives. And as our comrade said, not a few people, but lifted 850 million people out of poverty. And that really the great gift that socialism and the Communist Party of China and the struggling and toiling workers of China gave to the world by setting that example as well as to themselves. And they did it without exploiting other nations, without going to other nations and robbing their natural resources as our imperialists have done to affect their own development. And so we salute that example. Comrades, I hope you will join me now in welcoming Comrade George Galloway to deliver his message.
Thank you, Chairman Ranjit, Your Excellency, other diplomats, brothers and sisters, comrades, and this meeting. I don't have any friends left. Intended it. It is fitting that this meeting should take place in the very building that the great General Francisco de Miranda, the great military genius and leader of the fight for the liberation of the people of Latin America, born in Venezuela, lived in this building for 10 years, died in Latin America, rings out today because Venezuela is right now facing many of the same. The Chinese People's Revolution had to triumph. The powers of colonialism, double standards, black propaganda have tried to put Venezuela against the wall. But the name of Miranda and the name of Comandante Hugo Chavez will ring throughout history for centuries because they stood for liberation, for freedom, against foreign occupation and domination. And of course, who is standing by Venezuela now? Who has come to the side of Venezuela now? China is standing by the side of Venezuela. Your Excellency, it's an honor to address this meeting and the large audience watching live on our live stream on the 70th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese people and their revolution. Though I caution that I addressed the 70th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, and we saw what happened afterwards. So vigilance is always necessary. No victory can ever be taken for granted. The enemy never sleeps, and it's not sleeping now. I knew that China had really made it when I read the news this week that Ofcom, the British state censor, had begun an inquiry into the Chinese English language television station CGTN. You can consult me on this matter. I have some experience of Ofcom. Here, in this land, which goes around the world, bombing, setting fire to other people's countries in the name of liberty and democracy, have begun an inquiry which I promise you will lead to the before they began their inquiry. Well, they soon will, and they'll soon be. I look so tired. 7 days a week, according to the British, at one and the same time, RT is watched by hardly anyone, and on the other hand is responsible for almost everything. From the Brexit decision to the clamour for Scottish independence, to the Catalonian question, to the election of the President of the United States of America, we're responsible for it all.
Well done.
Yet hardly anyone watches us, they say. And so I look forward to the CGTN's ever more important contribution to establishing at least some balance in the media so that we can choose which version of events seem most plausible to us. Because the people who say that they stand for democracy and pluralism and freedom of speech stand for it as long as nobody else is speaking in contrary voice and nobody else is listening. Once they're listening. But this latest Ofcom attack on China on behalf of the British state has to be seen as part of a spectrum of efforts which have been being made for years but are now reaching panic proportions. And the intention of them is to slow China's progress, to weaken China, if possible to divide China, on the basis that if they don't succeed, the youngest person in this hall today is my 2-year-old daughter, Orla. She attends 5 days a week Chinese school. She can speak much more Chinese than any of us, and she's 2 years old. Why? Why do we send her to Chinese school? Because by the time she is an adult, China will be the greatest, the most prosperous country on the earth. And no wonder, therefore, they put so much effort into trying to slow the advance of China, to weaken it, and if possible, divide it. And that leads them into some really quite extraordinary causes. We don't hear it so much now, but it seems with apologies, I know this is not very diplomatic what I'm going to say, but I'm not. We're asked to believe in the Dalai Lama, a man who believes he's God. In fact, his devotees think he's God. We're asked to fly his flag, join his cause, on the principle that if they can divide Tibet from China, they will have knocked a brick out of the wall, the great wall of Chinese unity. And so we venerate here in Western countries a man who, if he appeared in Oxford Street with a placard saying, "I am God," we'd probably arrest him and take him away under the Mental Health Act and section him for his own good. Ditto the Falun Gong. We're big supporters here of the Falun Gong. But if they existed here, we'd call them what they are: a cult, a quasi-religious cult. That's what if they were British, they'd be regarded as nutters. Yet, because they exist to provide just another spear that we can stick into the side of China to weaken it, we're asked to venerate it. The latest is Hong Kong. Protesters upstairs, but I disdain to hide my view, which is this: if protesters occupied Terminal 5 at Heathrow Airport, they'd have been treated far more roughly than they were treated in Hong Kong. There isn't any doubt at all about that. Would any other country? I've just been explaining my view to His Excellency. That I think you've actually let this run on for too long. I tell you this: if British airports were being brought to a halt, if the British economy was being snarled up in the way Hong Kong is being snarled up, the British state forces would have acted, and far more violently than the Chinese forces have acted in Hong Kong. If you want a clue of that, take a look across the English Channel. France is 29 miles away from England. Hong Kong is 6,226 miles away. There are no English journalists in France covering the yellow vest transport. I know absolutely everything about the Hong Kong protesters, including the shoe sizes of their leaders, the family biographies of their leaders. For 46 consecutive Saturdays, hundreds of thousands of French people, 29 miles away, have been on the streets of France being gassed, being beaten, being shot with rubber bullets. 5 of them have lost their hands. 25 of them have been blinded, 7 have been killed, and it can't even get a second on Sky News or on the BBC News. Whilst a water cannon goes off in Hong Kong, and it's the headline news in the British media. How clear is any double standard say a word about rubber bullets. And here I'm grateful to my comrade Ranjit. Not that much, I don't know, but I didn't know this. Who invented the rubber bullet? We imagine it to be the British, because that's the sort of thing we do. And that's correct. But if you imagine that, as I did, that we invented the rubber bullet to fire at Irish people in the occupied 6 counties of the northeast of Ireland, you'd be wrong. The rubber bullet was invented by the British to fire at Chinese people in Hong Kong when Britain ruled it. That's a fact. I don't know if you knew that. Not a lot of British people seem to remember what things were like when we ruled Hong Kong. Even fewer know how we ruled it, how we got it in the first place. We're asked actually to bow our heads to the generosity of Britain in giving Hong Kong to China. That's true, isn't it? That's how it's presented. We stole Hong Kong from China. We stole it. Like thieves, we stole it. And we did so to punish China for refusing to allow us to sell opium from our empire in India to the Chinese masses, to stupefy them for the profit of the British Empire. How sordid a story is that? Everyone, including me, clucks about opium, heroin, and how ghastly, dastardly it is, as it is indeed. Hong Kong was our price to punish China for trying to stop our heroin, opium trading in China. Well, if I was responsible for something like that, I'd actually be too ashamed to mention the fact. Affair. But no, the British, having left Hong Kong, still act as if they own it. They still act as if they've got the right to tell China what to do in Hong Kong. Well, given how we acquired it, to say anything to China about Hong Kong than Slovakia or Romania or Timbuktu has. We are a foreign country. China is an independent, sovereign state which is open to the diplomatic norms and to civilized discourse based on mutual respect with anyone, everyone. But, as Deng Xiaoping said, the days when foreigners can give orders to China are over. And that's what everyone has to understand. So, I ask people, when you hear, see, read negative propaganda about China, you heard from the embassy this evening, we ought to be sending study groups to China so that we can learn and take a page out of their playbook, because their economy is as successful as ours is unsuccessful. Their anti-poverty programs are as successful as ours are unsuccessful. You have extended healthcare free at the point of need to 1.3 billion people, whilst in America 60 million people in America have no health care at all, no health insurance at all. And here in our own health service, as Dr. Ranjit can testify, we've got patients on trolleys in corridors, we've got children who can't be attended to because of the parlous conditions of our own health service, and it's not even winter yet. God forbid a bad winter and our people will be suffering in ways that are not difficult to imagine. Your children are studying, learning, traveling to study and learn. Your population, gigantic, industrious, is the most productive population on the earth. Shouldn't we be learning from China instead of trying to lecture China on what it should or should not be doing? Chairman, it's been an honor for me to appear here this evening, and I'm looking forward to the address of my comrade Harpal Brar, with whom I last spoke on this very subject in a different hall in Southall, I think 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were optimistic about China's future. 10 years later, we're even more optimistic. So if you see my little daughter in China in 20 years from now, just tell her you remember her father. Thank you very much indeed.